The Consulting Success podcast is powered by the Clarity Coaching Program. If you'd like to work directly with the Consulting Success team and receive personal coaching and support to optimize and grow your consulting business, marketing, and revenue, visit consultingsuccess.com to find out more and apply.
Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey everyone, Michael Zapersky here today, and I am with Chris Filipiak. Chris, welcome.
Hey Michael, great to be here today. Excited to be on the show and provide some value.
Before we kicked off on the recording here, you already got me laughing, so we're definitely going to have a good show. So Chris, you're a sales coach and you run a consulting business, helping agencies with the sales function. You know, you've sold everything from big data, marketing tech solutions for Fortune 50 companies, right, to your own independent consulting services. And what I'd love to kind of get started with here today is just have you share, from a sales kind of background, like is sales something that always came natural to you? Do you feel like a natural born salesperson, or is it something that you really had to learn and develop over the years?
I think I love this question. And I think that I've always been in sales one way or the other, like from doing trading cards as a kid, like as an elementary student, to like owning my own landscaping company when I was 11 years old and dragging my lawnmower around the block, to like selling Boy Scout popcorn and trash bags door to door. But the thing is like, even though I was doing sales work at that time and had some success and then sold, professionally, like for other companies, like you were mentioning, I never really felt like a salesperson, and I didn't understand sales, right? And I sucked at it, and it made me uncomfortable, and there was a lot of fear. And so now I actually feel like I understand what's going on with sales at like a deeper level, and I'm like in relationship and love with sales. And so, sales is kind of, I don't know, we'll dive in more into it, but like I really want sales to be synonymous with love. And I think I'm at that place right now where there's a ton of love in my sales, and it's less about just trying to make a sale. So,
it's interesting that you share that, because at a young age, I never sold like lemonade, or I don't have memories of doing those kinds of things. But at a fairly young age, I was working in a used sporting goods store, doing sales. And I also did Cutco knife sales and things but I never thought about myself as a salesperson. I always looked at, like, first of all, I had to believe in the product or the service that I was selling. But I always just looked at it as like building relationships and having conversations with people. And one specific experience I'll never forget is I was working at this used sporting goods store. It was called Sports Junkies. It still exists in Vancouver today, a different location that I worked at, one of the earlier locations. And I think I was in maybe elementary school, like late elementary, maybe first couple of years of high school. Can't remember when it was. It was a long time ago. But I remember one lady, she ended up buying, I was selling her some shoes. And she went over and told the owner or the manager, like, this guy, Michael, like, he's just amazing. And I was thinking, like, why am I amazing? Because I don't know that much about the actual product. Like, it's used stuff, and we didn't get like a lot of training on sneakers or snowboard boots or whatever it was. But I realized, like, what I did is I just asked her a lot of questions and just tried to serve. Like, I really just tried to be as helpful as I could be. And I still look at sales like that today. I don't know, any thoughts that you have on that topic? Because I think there's a lot of people who have challenge, from a mindset perspective, like sales is an uncomfortable place or even an uncomfortable word for them. It creates a bit of pressure, inside their chest and certainly in their minds. What would you kind of speak to on that topic?
Oh my gosh, we could spend days talking about this, and it's such a beautiful question. I think that's why I really like embraced being a salesperson, and recognize that it really is about helping people. Right. And it's really a gift to the other people to exchange energy and help someone get to where they're going. My mentor says that sales isn't something that you do to someone. Sales is something that you do for someone. Right. And so when that started to shift in my mind, and, when you're starting out a business, and, I have a family, I have 4 children, I have to I'm the sole, the main income provider. It's like, I need to get deals done because I need income coming in and revenue coming in so that I can pay and I'm bootstrapping a business. And so it's like, you're kind of in this scrambling energy. And from that place, from that needy place, like that feeling, and you can't see it, but I'm pointing to my stomach, from like whatever the ickiness that's going on there, when you're showing up from that place, it's really difficult. And so that's when, through a lot of work, through the internal work and understanding the external strategies and tactics, that I realized that sales is really about helping people. And I say that kind of with an asterisk, because what people think is help in a sales in a sale isn't really, there's the help of your service that moves someone from where they are to where they want to be. But the help you're providing in a sales conversation looks very different. So, I love that you use that term service, but for me, it really shifted where I'm going, like in every conversation, how am I helping this person and how am I showing up neutrally, like with all, like none of my own shit going on, like totally knowing that I'm taken care of, that I don't need anything from you. I need nothing from you. Right. And then that allows me to show up. And that's when things really transformed for me.
What if so just playing devil's advocate here, but also I think in a position where a lot of people might be at one point or another, what if you do need, like you do need to make the sale? So, you're saying being in a mindset, in a position where you're operating from, there's no attachment, right? It's like, do whatever you want. I'm just here to support you and help you to make the best decision for you, right? But what if you're the consultant on the other side that really does need that income, does need that revenue? And it could be because you're getting started, or it might be that you've had a nice pipeline of business and then a pandemic comes along, right? And COVID shows up and now clients are pausing, blah, 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 whatever it might be. What advice would you offer to that person who is in a position where they really do need the income? How can they operate with that level of confidence when they really do need the revenue?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So the level that I'm selling at now, having done the internal work and like understanding like what sales is really about, is so much higher. It's like, I don't know, I started off selling deals that I'm doing. Let me do the math. Like I'm like doing 4 years ago, I was doing deals that were 25 times smaller than the deal size that I'm doing now, right? Like it's a total different level of awareness and understanding about what's going on. I think with the people, like when you're getting into business, the goal is to learn this as quickly as possible, right? Because it'll transform your business. And I think you have to understand that bringing money into your business is based on cause and effect, right? Like it's not a mystery. And the cause is making sales, but it's not selling any one person. So you have to do the sales activity and have the daily sales motion and do, whether that's relationship nurturing or it's cold calling or whatever your strategy is for your business to make sales, create conversations, have conversations. You have to do that stuff consistently every day. So if you're desperate for revenue, you have to do the activities that allow you to make sales, but you don't show up in the sales conversation to sell. Like I'm not here to sell Michael, right? But I'm doing sales activity. And from that, based on cause and effect, I'm going to bring money. I'm going to allow money into my business. That's what I would say.
Most people that tend to be, desperate or just in a position where they really are putting a lot of pressure on that one conversation because they feel like they need to make it. Would you say that in your experience, it's often those are the same people that are not putting in the consistent work to build their pipeline? So they're not going through the motions, they're not making the calls or sending the emails or doing the follow-ups, or is that not true?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I see with my clients, is just inconsistent activity, right? And then that just shows up in your results. And then you're trying to make a sale, or you're trying to sell someone, right? Instead of helping them. And when you do that, they feel that, right? And they pick up on that energy, and it sets up a double binding message. You're showing up needy, and they're going to be like, there's something wrong with that dude. I don't know what's going on, but like, I don't want to buy from him, or I don't want to buy as much as I normally would from him. So
totally agree. Yeah. I mean, that's what we see as well, right? Is that the person that typically feels a lot of pressure around having to make the sale feels that pressure because they don't have many opportunities. It's like if you're up to bat, baseball analogy, and you only have one chance, right? You're going to feel a lot of pressure. But if you know that you're going to be able to get up to bat and have, multiple opportunities. So if you strike out this one time, it's okay. Like, in a couple of innings or whatever, you'll be back at it again, hopefully, and you'll have another opportunity. Then you feel a lot less pressure in that one conversation because it's just one out of many. But if that's your only conversation and you don't see many, new conversations coming up in the not too distant future, then you're going to typically feel a lot more pressure around that. I mean, that's at least what I've observed over the years and with many clients as well. And so that kind of comes back to the importance of having a system, right? Of working that system consistently. And I'm glad that you said that's also what you see with many of your clients. They're just not as consistent as they could be. So you talk, Chris, a fair bit about having a sales system. And what I'd like to do is, number one, hear from you a little bit more about what actually is a sales system in your mind. What does it look like so people can better understand some of the best practices? But before we do that, you touched on inner work. You actually used the word inner work at least 2 or 3 times. And so I'd like to understand, and for everyone here, what does that inner work look like? And then what part of that do you feel has connected or contributed most to you being able to increase your typical deal size 25 times over that period? So 3 kind of different things to explore there, but I'd love to go through each one with you.
Yeah, you keep track of them. I'll just talk and answer them the best I
so
can.
Number one, what is inner work to you? What does that look like? And just what have been the main takeaways that you've had from it?
Yeah. So I love that earlier we were just talking about pressure to make a sale. Okay. So let's use that as an example. Here's what I want the audience to understand is you're creating that pressure, right? That pressure is not, you're giving meaning to something external from yourself and creating that yourself, right? There's no pressure that actually exists for you. So that how you're thinking, right, that this is pressure, that I need to make this sale because this is the only money that I can think about, is determining how you feel, right? And how you feel is determining the actions that you're willing to take, which is showing up like kind of funny to this sale. And it's impacting your strategies and tactics going, I need to only focus on that. So the inner work is really understanding that how you think determines how you feel, and how you feel determines the actions you take, which determine the results that you create in your business. So it starts with your thinking, which means you have to understand how to think accurately.
What have you found, Chris, in regards to that in your personal journey? What's been most helpful for you? Is it a book, a resource, or whatever that you feel like made just the biggest difference in really understanding that, seeing that, and then being able to act on it in an effective way?
Yeah, I think it's really understanding like the law of cause and effect and some of the, what I would call like the fundamental or the universal laws of just how things work. And like with sales, or with money, like money comes from making a sale, which comes from doing sales activity consistently, right? That's it. Like that's just based on cause and effect. It's not based on luck or, all this raise your vibration stuff. Like, I think that's where people like get mindset confused. And I don't even like to use that term a ton, but like, that's why mindset matters, because you have to have the right thoughts with the right actions combined. I love Wallace Wattles' book, The Science of Getting Rich: Vision, Purpose, Faith, Gratitude. Like those things set you up, like clarity on what you want, constant expectation of having it, purpose, which is just action. It's awesome. So yeah, that's what I mean by the internal work. And it's really, and this is the point I wanted to make, is when you're feeling pressure, okay, when you're showing up with pressure or you need to make a sale, that's you focused, right? That's, you are totally thinking about yourself. And when you're in that space, you have kind of blinders on to what is possible for the client. So in my personal journey, I didn't understand that at first. And it's only been in the last couple of years that I understand where I get love from, where I get freedom from, where I get connection from, right? It's not from the people I'm selling to. I'm showing up to give those people something. So
I love that. And what would you say has contributed most? I mean, you mentioned your deal size has increased 25 times, right? So that's significant. What in those lessons or learnings or the cause and effect, how have you, if you could just make that a bit more tangible for us, like what have you done or what have the shifts been that have allowed you to increase your pricing successfully?
So Neville Goddard, in his book, The Power of Awareness, talks about the fact that man's chief delusion is that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Okay. So you can re-listen to the recording, but that's going like how you think, right? So the thing was like, I wasn't thinking about my business like in a way that allowed me to do those deal size. So two things were happening. I wasn't seeing the opportunities to sell the market what it wanted or to give or provide the service that the market wanted. So like that's something that I'm actually doing a big thing around. I knew what I wanted to do, right? But it was really doing the work to figure out what the market wanted to pay for now, like what was going on in the mind of my audience and how could I change my offering, and being willing to change my offering to provide a service that the market wanted. So that was a huge difference. The other difference was just getting comfortable doing that level of deal size, right? Like just having the confidence in myself, knowing that I'm good enough, loving on myself, like building up the awareness. Those size deals were there when I started my business, right? They were there 4 years ago. I just wasn't allowing myself to see them, ask for them. It's the same people that were in my phone 4 years ago. Like literally, like it's all the same people. Now I'm just, instead of doing those small deals with those people, now I'm doing much larger deals. And so that's what I think, and just solving bigger problems.
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
I want to make this really, tangible and just easier for people to grasp so that they can also then be able to implement. So can you take me through an example? Like what do your typical deal look like before?
So I started off doing sales as a service. So people would put me on contract with them, month-to-month contracts, okay, doing outsourced sales for them using my systems. And I'd do a retainer plus commission on that. And that went fine. And that allowed me to build up my expertise about what was required for me to sell successfully. Like what are the systems, what were the people, what were the strategies to do that? Then I got to the point where I was like, okay, now I know how to do that myself. Now, how can I help them build a sales team that can replicate that, right? So I went from doing sales to helping build a team that could do sales for that business. And again, I started doing that in 4-week blocks. Like I do an initial like step 1 assessment and revenue roadmap, and I would sell that individually. And then I moved to like a 3 or 4 month engagement. Okay. And go like, okay, we can do an initial step 1 plus an initial build phase and get here. And then it was really going like, look, it's going like, if you really want to scale your business from 2 to 4 million, right? Or wherever, like 5 to 8, whatever you actually want to do, it's going to take some work, right? And let's talk about, 6-month engagement, 12-month engagement. Let's talk about bringing in these bench members who can program your CRM. That's fine. Let's work with a recruiter, right? And just packaging bigger deals to actually get the work done required, and talking about that in like a real way, not like just like, hey, yeah, I'll just come in for 4 weeks and all of a sudden, you'll have an amazing sales team. You'll go from, 2 to 4 within 24 months, like no problem, right? It's so like not like
almost that. What I'm hearing you say, Chris, is you started off providing the service yourself. Like you were the implementer, you were the doer in the organization, which for some organizations, they would look at you the same way that they might look at it as an employee or a contractor doing the work. And then what you ended up shifting is, rather than doing the work, you position yourself as someone that can enable the work to happen, but not by you. You simply would guide, help with the strategy, get all the different pieces together. And then maybe it sounds like where you are now is really looking at a more comprehensive picture of, okay, here's where we currently are. Here's where we want to be. Here's the things that need to happen in between. And I'm going to help you to essentially put the right system and best practices in place and then guide you through that so that you can create the higher level results. But you yourself aren't picking up the phone, calling, sending the emails, doing the follow-ups. Like, you're not doing the business or the sales for them. You're enabling them and giving them, setting up or supporting them to have a team in place that can do that stuff. So the impact that you can now create is significantly greater because it's not just one person doing something anymore. Now you're enabling to the whole organization, however big they are, to essentially all of them can now do it, or whoever you put in place can do it. So the impact can be greater because it doesn't just hinge on you anymore. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's still a lot of there's still some tactical work that I'll do for my clients, but I don't do sales for other people anymore. Right? Because it's not ultimately good for that business, because then I'm holding all the competency of the business for making sales, and the business itself isn't developing any sales competency, and I think that's like a critical function. Like the critical function that a business has to figure out how to do is how to make sales, right? You can't just, especially in consulting, right? Like consultants can't outsource their sales effort. Like it's just not going to work. It's an expert level, consultative sale. And so it's going to be, your business has to develop that competency.
And then talk about, so the pricing, so the deal size has increased. I mean, I can see how the progression of the scope of work has shifted from you just doing the work to now really enabling and guiding and, setting up all the structures and so forth. How did you switch your pricing strategy? Because it sounds like you start off with kind of a base fee on a monthly basis, right? Plus a percentage of commission that you would generate above a baseline or whatever. Fast forward to today, how have you thought about it, or what is kind of the progression or shifts that you made in reaching the pricing model that you use today?
Yes, most consultants are full-time employees, right? So they're being paid to do a job within a company or a business, right? And then they're like, oh, well, I want to be a consultant. So I've built up this skill set and now I'm a consultant, right? So they end up having a financial set point that's tied to what their wage was as an employee, right? So that's the first thing, is understanding that we get attached these financial set points, right? And what you have to start to think about is, what am I helping this business owner, this person that I'm working with, create for themselves? And really, what is the value to them? Right? That's what it comes down to. What is this creating for them, both from a financial ROI, from an emotional ROI, right? And you can put pen to paper and do risk adjusted value. And my contribution to that overall value is 10%, 20%, and then risk adjusted because it might not implement or take is this, and figure out that. But it's really understanding what it's worth to them. And for me, so many of the businesses I work with fire tons of salespeople, right? What's the cost of hiring and firing a salesperson in terms of opportunity cost, of actually recruitment fees, salaries, training, confusion, right? This is a huge, I saw a number that hiring and firing salesperson cost a business $100,000. like a consulting business or like a B2B business, $100,000, right? So like if you can help salespeople be successful, right, and actually scale a business, that's incredibly valuable. But that's again, the shift isn't like, it's not what your time is worth or what your knowledge is worth. It's really like, what is the value creating? I almost feel like I'm in MBA school, like it's cliche again, because like there's value, there's all these different pricing strategies, but it's really going like, yeah, for you, man, what is this really worth to you? Like, why do you want this? What will this create for your business? How much time does it save you? Like for a CEO, if I save you 8 hours a day because you're not on strategy sessions, what's that worth to you?
Yeah. So you're really shifting from starting off doing the work, right? And thinking with more of that kind of employee contractor mindset of number of hours or what you were making before you became a consultant, to shifting to the focus on the actual client and what is the value for them and what is the potential return on investment for them and how will it make their lives and their businesses better, and then tying in your contribution to that so that it's a win-win for both parties, where you're compensated very well and they're also very happy because they look at it and say, yeah, I've received a really great return on that investment. But the other part too, I think some people may not catch on right away, is that as your contribution, your involvement in the value or the impact, is being increased through the work that you're doing, because you're now involved in more parts or a bigger scope, right? That also now means that you can capture more compensation from that, right? You're involved in more parts. There's maybe potentially some more risk. There's definitely more value, but that's also going to then lead to greater compensation opportunities for you, because again, there's more on the table for everyone to capture and benefit from. Chris, I wanted to ask you, so the third thing, kind of, you asked me to keep track. So the third thing, right, was the system. So you have a system for sales. And I know this could be, a very long discussion, right, to go through it all, but take us from a professional services. I mean, you work a lot with agencies. So what does the system look like? How would you define a sales system, and what are the important kind of aspects or parts of that people should be thinking about that would really help them to see better results?
My business, it's a great question. My business is going through an evolution on this because I'm originally an engineer from Ford Motor Company. I was an industrial and operations engineer, which is the integration of human and machine systems, right? So sales is the same thing as making Ford F-150s. Like you have people and you have technology and you have to mash those together so you get a kick-ass vehicle. And so from doing sales as a service, like I started to understand all of the pieces that were required to allow the system to run or allow the person to get in the system and drive the car. I like to think of it as like stepping stones, like across a river. And most businesses don't have any stepping stones. So everyone has to get in the river and swim, and it's hard to make it to the other side. Whereas if you can give the salesperson nice big stepping stones to put in the river, then it makes it really easy for people to buy from that business. Loosely, I've been calling those stepping stones people, strategy, and technology. I'm actually thinking about shifting those around a little bit. But it really comes down to daily sales activity. Like what are the things required to drive daily sales activity, which is create conversations. So what are the tools and the activity sets required based on your goal? Like you can reverse engineer down from your goal. So what do those things look like? And then how are you implementing those? So like a good example would be like I do like an executive roundtable, right? So like one of the things that I do is like a monthly executive roundtable. So I have to send out invites for that every single day. So like that's a create conversation.
But just to clarify for people who might not understand or be familiar with that concept. So you're sending invitations to people who could potentially be clients of yours. They're in the industry, where you gather them together, you facilitate a conversation, or, have some different perspectives, may present a little bit, but you're doing that with a small kind of more intimate group as a way to position yourself as an expert, build relationships, and therefore also build business. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Got you.
Yeah,
okay.
For sure. And my existing clients as well, based on just looking to facilitate a conversation. But so like that's like what I would call like a play that I run, that I have to have an email, I have to have a CRM, I have to have, what am I sending? What am I saying? Right. Another example would be like a discovery conversation. So like when you show up to discovery conversation, what are you doing in that conversation? like as a person, if you're moving to co-creating a solution, what does that conversation look like? And like I said, so it's the system is really that set of daily activities plus whatever the actual sales workflow is and the tools that the salesperson is using to manage that. And then it's also having some internal strategies and tactics, right? So I think of it like, typically in terms of businesses that I found make sales, they mastered people, strategy, and technology, those stepping stones, right? So the key is getting those in place and operating well. And like I said, it could be your mindset, it could be your conversations, it's your actual sales team, the sales people, the sales workflow, the marketing workflow. So just getting that dialed in, getting the SOPs in place. And I'm trying to simplify that because it can get really complicated really, really quickly. But I think what it comes down to is that daily sales motion or that daily sales activity and those conversations and having clarity on what you're doing in every single one of those conversations, whether it's a cold call or a connection call or a strategy session or a co-create the solution or open up the business. And you're showing up like a badass on there and going like, okay, I got this. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm showing up today and it's like these are the activities that I am doing. And also, like mindset, like how am I thinking? How am I warming up before my calls? So that's what I think of in terms of the system.
And for someone, let's say that they are the founder and it might be a solo, consultant or professional services person, or it might be someone that has a team of 5 or 10 or 15 or 30 people. But let's say the founder is still the one who is really doing the business development and the sales activity. But they're also being, they're still involved in many other aspects of the business, from delivery to just, working with clients or giving presentations, whatever it might be. When you're working with a client like that, and they, especially because I know you work with agencies, right? So it's not necessarily just one person, but what have you found? Like, what's your typical advice for somebody who still has one foot in delivery, or they're spending quite a bit of time, working kind of in the business, but they are still like the key and core person to work on the business, to build the business and business development? What actions would you recommend for them? Do you think would be most helpful in actually building that pipeline and making sure that they are able to consistently on a daily basis, like work on that system? Is there anything that you kind of counts on or best practices?
Yeah. So it's how I approach building teams, and it depends on how involved the founder is with, or the lead consultant is doing sales work. Some don't want to do sales as well, and they make maybe one sale a month or one sale every few months, and like that's enough to sustain their business, but it's not enough. It can't scale their business, right? So it's going, when you're transitioning from founder sales to apprentice sales to small teams sales, I think the best way to do it currently is to build a system based around that founder, where they can consistently do sales work every day to whatever capacity that they can. And then whatever activities they can't get done, outsource those, part-time them, contract them, automate them, right? But the founder needs to be there needs to be a system around them so that they can sell like a salesperson instead of a founder. And you kind of prototype out or MVP out a little sales system around the founder, prove that out for a few months, right? Make sure there's a daily sales motion. So when you hire a salesperson, then you're bringing them into something that's already functional and working. That's the way that I think to do it. And that way your business is making sales every day. I think that's the give. And it's really going like, look, we want to be at this level. These are the number of conversations we have to have, right? These are the activities we need to do, whether that's relationship nurturing or cold prospecting or any type of speaking, one-to-many conversations. You create all that. So that's the way I think to do it. The other way you can do it is you can have like a system build phase, because the founder doesn't want to sell every day, right? Build that out and then start to figure out who's going to do those activities, right? It's like define the activities, figure out who's going to do them, and go from there. Let me see. I think that's all. Yeah. That's my best. That's usually what I recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to encourage everyone to go back and kind of take to heart what we talked about earlier in this conversation, what Chris shared around doing the inner work, because what I've observed is that in order for you to excel in the outer work of actually, doing the daily work to build your business, what's going to give you it's not really the incentive, but the motivation or the inspiration, to and the commitment to carry that out consistently is going to be how you feel about sales and how, you approach that. And so if you have a lot of hesitation or a lot of feelings that just aren't comfortable because you're not comfortable with the idea of sales, you're probably not going to do it. And if you do it, you're not going to do a good job at it. So it's important to first do some of that inner work to get really clear on like, why are you doing it and how do you want to serve and how do you want to help and how do you want to create value and be known and demonstrate, leadership and value in the marketplace. And then from that position, it'll become easier. And I think you'll become more excited by the concept of building the business because it allows you to have more impact. Chris, I want to thank you so much for coming on here today. And I want to make sure that people can learn more about you and your work. Where's the best place for them to go?
You can find me definitely on LinkedIn/Chris Filipiak, and then my website, www.chrisfilipiak.com. Be happy to have a conversation with anyone on here who's uncomfortable with sales, looking to scale and grow, build out a first salesperson, and just generally wants to bring more love to their sales work.
Nice. Fantastic. We'll have all those links up in the show notes. Thanks so much again, Chris, for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.